lot of these classics I bought because I liked the idea of me reading these books or have read them, but I haven't read them, so that kind of says a lot. My name is Mackenzie. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are going to be doing something just a little bit different. I have in the floor in front of me my remaining TBR. Yes, you heard me correctly. Some of my shelves and book cart is empty because all of my remaining TBR, all the books that I haven't read yet, are all laid out in front of me. So since 2020 is actually coming to a close, finally, I decided to go over all of these books with you so that way you know what I'm still trying to get through and you can shame me for not reading these books when I go on a book haul in 2021. So after I collected all of the books and realized how many I had that I still needed to read, I spread them out, I organized them, and I have them in stacks and piles. This video is going to be part 1 of 2, so that way they're not very, very long. It's still probably going to be long, and I'm sorry for that. So grab a cup of tea, grab some coffee, grab something to eat, let's have a video. The first section, the first grouping of books I'm going to be talking about are going to be classics. So bear with me on the grouping I've organized them by, because you could have organized them differently and that would have been okay, but this is how I organize them. So in this video we're going to do classics, horror and thrillers, and standalones. And in the next video we're going to do series and romances. So stay tuned or jump ahead. Alright, we'll start classics off and we'll start this video off with something a little bit controversial. How about Lolita? So I cannot remember how I have acquired this book. I know I've had it for a long time. I haven't read it, I don't think. I don't remember the ending. You remember that picture of Snoop Dogg that was going around a while and he was reading this book? That's probably when I bought it, but haven't read it. This could have fit a few prompts in readathons that I did this year, where like books that are out of your comfort zone, but I never even picked it up. I don't even think I saw it. So that's one of them. The next book that I have, I'm not sure if it's entirely classic, but it's a mythology book by Edith Hamilton. So this is Greek mythology, and what it is, gosh, what is it about? Basically, she explains Greek, Roman, and Norse myths that are keystones to Western culture and how we view them today. So things that are more popular or are referenced more frequently, she goes in depth and details it. And I definitely, as a child, was a Greek myth freak, so I was really excited to pick this up. I know I've gotten through, maybe about 100 pages and stopped, but I like to pick it back up. I'd like to finish it, especially with more of the reading that I do nowadays. I'd like to refresh some of my memory on those myths, especially the Norse myths. I don't read enough Norse mythology. The next book that I have here is The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. My goodness, this is like a 500-page book. Look at that writing, though. That's crazy. So it is a goal for sure to definitely read all of this. Who knows when it's going to happen, because it's a lot of small, tiny words and all of his works. So it's going to be hard to feel accomplished after finishing something. You know, when a book has multiple books in it, it feels hard to be accomplished. The next set of classics that I have here are actually all Barnes & Noble Classics editions. It's very exciting. I love these editions. They're really simple and they're really cute. The first book that I have here is actually a two-parter. It's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Look Through the Looking Glass. I read the first book, haven't read the second book. Want to read the second book, especially since I really liked the first one. And it's fairly short, it's only about 100 pages. I have two Jane Austen books. I have Sense and Sensibility as well as Pride and Prejudice. So yes, I was made to read, or They made me read Pride and Prejudice in high school. However, I didn't really read Pride and Prejudice in high school. I watched the movie with Keira Knightley, so I mean, sue me. But I would very much like to read these books. They are classics, and I do love the stories anyway. I have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, so I really know nothing about this. I know that some people think it's a love story. I also heard that it's more toxic relationship. Not entirely sure at all, but I would like to just be clued in, you know? I think a lot of these classics I bought because I liked the idea of me reading these books or have read them, but I haven't read them, so that kind of says a lot. The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So I read a few pages of this book. I even have a few highlights going on. But I totally stopped. It's one of those where the old-timey English really catches me up and it can make me kind of fall asleep. So it's hard to stay awake with some of these books. So that's why it's been put down. But I would like to pick it back up because it is one of those, like, creepy tales that, like, could be a source of great inspiration, so I would love to read it. And the last of the classics, The Hunchback of Notre Dame? How does anyone say it? By Victor Hugo. So I did pick this up so I could read it in high school. I didn't read it in high school. I Spark Noted it in high school. But I would like to actually read it because the Spark Notes version, it's like a sad tale once I figured out the whole summary of it. But it seems like a good one. I'd like to enjoy it, but I haven't yet. Alright, these are all the classics. There we go. All the classics I haven't read yet. The next section of books is horror and thrillers. So, of course, these could be considered standalones as well, or even contemporaries, or anything. You could reorganize it however you wanted it. However, I bought all of these books with the intention of reading them for horror, thriller, spooky month, and it never happened. So, here we are with all of these horror thriller books. The first one is Stephen King, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. This is a short story collection, Stories from the Darkest Places. Includes the tale Dolan's Cadillac. Let's see, any stories in here we know? Okay, so I don't recognize the title of any of these short stories. However, they were all published in previous collections. So this is just, I think, some greatest hits. Haven't really read a lot of Stephen King. I have read a few parts of it, and I do kind of like his writing, so I'm just kind of excited to form more of a deeper opinion on Stephen King. Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. I have picked up this book because my mom liked the TV show and I didn't want to watch a TV show, I wanted to read. However, I haven't actually read it yet. I know it's more of a domestic thriller. I know it's about more of a conventional nuclear family who meets a new neighbor who's a single mom and a daughter, and social issues might come up. Not really entirely sure, but I have it. And I need to read it because it's one of those short ones and I feel like I could get through it. And everyone says good things about it, so maybe. My issue with thrillers that happened in October was that I was picking up some turds and they weren't fun to read and it really put me in a slump. But I have other thrillers that I should be reading. Hopefully they're good. The next one, When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So this one came out, I believe, this year. It's about gentrification, and so because I like thrillers that are more, that talk more on social issues, so that's why I thought this would be a good read for me. However, once I got into that reading slump in October, I really couldn't bring myself to read anything thriller for fear it wouldn't turn out good. The Haunted by Bentley Little. I picked this one up because Stephen King said he was the poet laureate of horror, and I thought, maybe okay. It's a haunted house. I'm always a sucker for a haunted house because I do want it to be haunted. So I always have faith This is a fairly short one, only 300 pages. Yeah, and the cover kind of drew me in. It was really creepy, really scary. It's like one of those movie posters you don't want to look at for too long. I have another Stephen King called The Institute. So this one really intrigued me because it was like these kids are being kidnapped to go onto this train that's like a replica of their bedroom, but they can't get out. So it felt very atmospheric, and I kind of wanted to know how, like, on top of wanting to know more about Stephen King and his writing style, I kind of wanted to just know how something like this kind of comes about and how you even write something like this. The Guest List by Lisa Foley or Fooley? I'm not entirely sure how to say her last name. However, I have heard great things about this book. I picked it up because I got married February of 2020, and I really wanted to read a thriller about a wedding. I thought it sounded very fun. Also, I read one, In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, and I really liked it, and it was a kind of bachelorette party, but I kind of liked the same theme where it was like supposed to be happy, and then the scariness sets in, so I was kind of excited about this one. The next 3 books that I have are all a Ruth Ware book, because as I said, I read In a Dark, Dark Wood earlier this year and loved it, so I decided to pick up some more and see how much I really love this Ruth Ware. We have The Lying Game, which I know nothing about. I know nothing about any of these books. Ooh, I know something about this one, The Death of Mrs. Westaway. This one is about a main character who receives an inheritance from someone she doesn't know, so she goes to collect and kind of figure out how that woman knows her. And this one, The Turn of the Key, I don't know what it's about either. I think it's basically loosed off of something else. Not sure though. Editing Mackenzie will let you know. Okay, these are all the horror and thrillers that I have to read. Ah, and none of them fell. Can you believe it? That's pretty crazy. The last section of this video, the standalones that I have left to read. Something More Than Night by Ian Tregillis. I was supposed to read this book earlier this month and I did not, and I'm probably not going to read it this year. But it is about, it's about archangels, and someone has murdered the archangel Gabriel, and also the Jericho trumpet is missing. So because I have studied religion before, it kind of intrigued me. However, and it's also like noir, so that's also intriguing. However, I never find that I'm in the mood for it, so I still need to read it. Okay, let me explain this one. Gil's All Fright Diner by A. Lee Martinez. So I was at Barnes & Noble, me and my husband, and I went and got like $60 worth of books, and the guy at the register was like, hey, do you want another book? And he pitched this book to me and my husband was like, yes, we need that book. So now we have this book, and even though he's the one who wanted it, I think I'm the only one who's going to read it. So this is about Duke and Earl who are passing through, and I think they're creatures, and they go to Gil's all-night diner to eat, and there's like aliens. It says it's a debut. People say fans of Douglas Adams will happily sink their teeth into this combo platter of raunchy laughs and ectoplasmic ecstasy. What? Okay, first of all, we were not a fan of Douglas Adams. Second of all, raunchy laughs and ectoplasmic ecstasy. I don't think this was a book for me. Goody. The Year of the Fog by Michelle Richmond. So this book I actually got back in high school when I went on my original reading binge when I read No One You Know and In the Woods by Tana French. So this one is about a stepmom who takes her stepdaughter to the beach, and she's a photographer, so she goes to take pictures, and then the fog rolls in and then it rolls out and her stepdaughter is missing. So this is kind of a thriller, I think. Who knows? Genres are so hard for me. I'm going to keep it in standalone, but yeah, I just haven't read it yet because it seems very, like, contemporary. It's a profoundly original glimpse into the mysterious and wondrous workings of the human heart. It just sounds like one of those, like, feely books, and sometimes I'm just not in the mood for that. A Natural History of Dragons, a memoir by Lady Trent by Marie Brennan. So this one really interested me because it was like a book of a book. So this one is a memoir of dragons of this lady, Lady Trent, of this main character, I guess, who did the natural history of dragons in her world. She's a preeminent dragon naturalist, remarkable woman who studied dragons in the misty shadows. Before she became the illustrious figure we know today, there was a bookish young woman whose passion for learning natural history and dragons defied stifling conventions of her day. So these are her last own words, a true story of pioneering spirit who risked her reputation, her prospects, and fragile flesh and bone to satisfy her scientific curiosity. Ooh, that's exciting. I just got re-excited about this book. Ooh, I don't know if you can tell, but the font is brown instead of black. I really like that. That's really pretty. Okay, exciting. Alan Turing, The Enigma by Andrew Hodges. Oh my gosh. So, you know when that movie was coming out, and I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna watch the movie. I'll just get the book. So I ordered the book, not realizing how big it was, and then it showed up, and I was like, oh no. Yeah. So basically why I haven't read it is entirely because of how big the size is, and also, it's basically a memoir about a guy I don't know. So, way to go, Mackenzie, on choosing a book like that. The last standalone I have is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I bought this book because I saw it all over Bookstagram, and it's a beautiful cover. Look at how beautiful it is. So I've heard a lot about Samantha Shannon and how good of an author she is. I've also heard that there's sapphic romance in this, which I'm all about, and it's adult sci-fi fantasy, and I'm totally for all of that. So here are all the standalones that I still have to read. Can you see them? Alright, so here were just some of the books that I still have on my remaining TBR. Hopefully I'll get to them in 2021. If I don't, feel free to shame me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye!